He arrived at the shop in dirty clothes and offered to fix the car in exchange for food. Everyone laughed, calling him crazy, until he put his hands on the engine and showed them who he really was. The sun beat down fiercely on the asphalt as Ethan approached the elite auto shop. His clothes were filthy, his hair was disheveled, and the smell of someone who had slept on the street clung to him like an invisible mark. But his eyes, despite being tired, had a different sparkle, a brightness that no one there could recognize. Mike was hunched over the engine of a silver Mercedes, sweating and quietly cursing. Beside him, two other mechanics, Kevin and Jake, watched, trying to help. The car's owner, Jennifer, was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, clearly nervous but trying to maintain her composure. "I can't believe this is happening," she muttered, running a hand through her hair. "I need this car running today." Mike raised his head, wiping the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Ms. Jennifer, I'm doing my best. I've never seen a problem like this. The engine starts, but it has no power. Have you tried everything?" she asked, trying to control the anxiety in her voice. "Everything we know," Kevin replied, shaking his head. "We changed the spark plugs, filters, cleaned the injectors. Nothing fixes it." It was at that moment that Ethan slowly approached, his flip-flops making a muffled sound on the shop floor. The three mechanics looked at him with a mix of surprise and discomfort. Jennifer frowned but said nothing. "Excuse me," Ethan said, his voice hoarse but polite. "May I take a look at the engine?" Mike let out a dry laugh. "A look? Do you know anything about mechanics?" "I know a little," Ethan replied simply. Jake started laughing too. "A little? Man, this is a Mercedes, not a wagon." "I know it's a Mercedes," Ethan said calmly. "C300 model 2-liter turbo engine. I heard the noise when it arrived." "The problem isn't where you're looking." Kevin looked at Mike with an expression of disbelief. "Now the homeless guy is a Mercedes specialist." Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. Something about Ethan's calmness bothered her, but not in a negative way. It was as if he really knew what he was talking about. "Listen here." Mike stood up, wiping his hands on a rag. "I don't know where you came from, but this is a professional auto shop. We don't need help from people like me," Ethan completed without bitterness in his voice. "That's not what I meant," Mike lied, clearly embarrassed. "Yes, it is." Jake had no such modesty. "Dude, you need a shower, not to mess with a rich person's car." Jennifer stepped away from the wall. "Guys, let's calm down." "Ms. Jennifer, you don't need to worry," Kevin said. "We'll solve this. We just need more time." Ethan observed the open engine, his eyes scanning each component with a precision none of them noticed. "May I run a test just to confirm a suspicion?" "What suspicion?" Mike asked, trying not to sound interested. "The problem is in the electronic control unit. It's not mechanical, it's electronic. That's why you can't find it." Jake pulled out his phone and started filming. "Guys, check this out. The homeless guy is now an electronic injection specialist." "Jake, stop it," Jennifer asked, but he kept filming. No, let me record this. It'll be a good laugh to post later." Kevin laughed too. "Post it, man." Homeless guy gives a lecture on mechanics at a premium shop. Ethan was unfazed by the laughter. He had heard worse in his life. "If you give me a chance, I can solve it in a few minutes." "In exchange for what?" Mike asked sarcastically. "A $100 bill." "In exchange for a sandwich," Ethan said simply. "Anything, I'm just hungry." The answer caught everyone by surprise. Jake almost dropped his phone from laughing so hard. "A sandwich, man? Are you serious?" "I am," Ethan confirmed. "And I can guarantee I'll solve the problem you've been struggling with for hours." Mike looked at Jennifer, who seemed thoughtful. She approached Ethan, looking him in the eyes. "Do you really understand this?" "I do, ma'am." "How do you know it's a problem with the electronic control unit?" Ethan pointed to the engine. "By the noise it makes. It's a specific sound when the camshaft position sensor is sending the wrong signal to the unit. It cuts the fuel injection as a safety measure." Jennifer looked at Mike. "Did you check that?" "We checked everything," Mike replied, but his voice sounded less confident. "No, you didn't," Ethan said calmly. "You looked for mechanical problems, but modern cars are computer-controlled. When a sensor fails, the car goes into protection mode." Jake was still filming. "People, this is too good. The guy is lecturing the professional mechanics." "Jake, for God's sake, stop filming," Jennifer asked again, this time with more firmness. Ms. Jennifer, this is going to be hilarious. Mike approached Ethan. Okay, let's suppose you're right. How do you fix it? I need to access the injection unit with a scanner, reset the parameters, and calibrate the sensor. We don't have a scanner here, Kevin said. I know where there is one, Ethan replied. In the shop next door. The owner knows me. Mike and Jake exchanged ironic glances. Sure, he knows you. Jennifer continued observing Ethan. There was something intriguing about him. The way he spoke, the quiet confidence, the technical knowledge. It didn't sound like someone who was making things up. What if you can't fix it? She asked. If I can't fix it, you don't owe me anything, not even the sandwich, Ethan said. But if I do fix it, then you get me something to eat. That's all. Mike let out an exaggerated sigh. Fine. But when it doesn't work, you'll leave and not bother us again. Deal, Ethan nodded. Jake was still filming everything. This is going to be epic. The washout trying to fix a Mercedes. Ethan walked to the shop next door. It was a simpler, less luxurious place where a man worked alone. He greeted the owner, Mr. Rodriguez, with familiarity and returned with a scanner in his hand. Where did you get that? Mike asked suspiciously. Mr. Rodriguez lent it to me, Ethan replied, connecting the device to the car. Jennifer watched his every move. There was something familiar in the way he handled the tools. A precision she recognized but didn't know from where. The scanner started beeping as Ethan navigated the menus with an ease that impressed even Mike. In a few minutes, he found the error code. Here it is, he muttered. Camshaft position sensor, intermittent signal. How did you know? Jennifer asked, truly impressed. Ethan didn't answer. He was focused on the work, resetting codes and recalibrating parameters. His hands moved with surgical precision, as if that technology were a natural extension of his body. Kevin stopped laughing when he saw how easily Ethan operated the scanner. Jake was still filming, but now with less mockery and more curiosity. Done, Ethan said, disconnecting the device. You can start the car. Mike went to the steering wheel, turned the key, and the engine started smoothly, purring perfectly. He stepped on the gas and the response was immediate. The silence in the shop was awkward. Jennifer got into the car, drove around the block, and returned with wide eyes. I've never seen this car run so well. It feels brand new. Ethan was already putting the scanner away to return it. There you go, ma'am. Problem solved. How did you learn this? Mike asked, the arrogance gone from his voice. Ethan hesitated. I worked with cars my whole life. Where? In several places, he replied evasively. Can I get that sandwich now? Jennifer approached him, something stirring in her chest. What's your name? Ethan. Ethan? What? He hesitated again. Just Ethan. Jake still had his phone in his hands, but he wasn't sure if he should post the video anymore. What started as mockery had turned into something completely different. Mike extended a bill to Ethan. Here, you deserve more than a sandwich. I don't need it. Ethan refused. It was what we agreed upon. Man, you just solved in minutes what we couldn't do all day. Jennifer opened her purse and took out some money. Please accept it. You saved my day, Ethan shook his head. I just wanted to help. Why? She asked. Why did you want to help people who treated you poorly? Ethan looked at her, and for a second Jennifer saw a deep sadness in those eyes, an ancient pain he carried like an invisible scar. Because everyone deserves a second chance, he said simply, and walked away slowly, leaving behind a silent auto shop and 4 people who didn't know they had just met a legend. Days later, Ethan was again circling the area near the elite auto shop. Not because he was looking for work, he knew he wouldn't be welcome, but something drew him back to that place. Perhaps it was the memory of when his hands touched an engine again, when for a few minutes he was who he used to be. The shop was busy. Several luxury cars occupied the bays, and Ethan could hear the sound of tools and conversation coming from inside. He hid behind a tree on the opposite sidewalk, watching from a distance. Mike was hunched over a red BMW, clearly frustrated. Even from a distance, Ethan could tell by the abrupt gestures and tense posture that things were not going well. Kevin and Jake were circling the car, but they looked more lost than Mike himself. This cannot be happening again, Mike muttered, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Third car this week we can't figure out. An elegant man in an expensive suit approached the BMW. It was the vehicle's owner, Dr. Henry, a well-known lawyer in the city. "How's the progress?" he asked, trying to maintain his composure but with clear irritation in his voice. "Dr. Henry, we're almost there," Mike lied, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "It's just one more little adjustment." "One more little adjustment? You've been saying that for 2 days. I need my car working." Jake discreetly stepped back and grabbed his phone. "Man, I'm filming this. Mike is losing it." "Stop that," Kevin whispered. But Jake was already recording. Ethan watched everything from afar, his experienced eyes identifying the problem just by the engine's irregular sound. It was a matter of a badly calibrated part, something he could fix in minutes. But he knew there was no point in approaching. He still remembered the laughter, the mockery, the way he had been treated. A young woman arrived by taxi carrying a child in her arms. It was Sarah, Dr. Henry's wife. The child, a small boy, was crying softly. "Did Henry manage to fix it?" she asked, worried. "Alex has a fever. I need to take him to the hospital." Dr. Henry looked at Mike with an expression that mixed desperation and contained anger. "They're working on it." Mike felt the pressure mount. "Ms. Sarah will fix it now. Just a few more minutes." "A few minutes? You said the same thing yesterday and the day before yesterday," Dr. Henry exploded. "My son is sick. I need the car." The tension in the shop was palpable. Other customers began to approach, curious about the argument. Jake continued filming, now with more interest. "Folks, check it out, drama at the premium auto shop," he whispered to his phone. Kevin tried to calm the situation. "Dr. Henry will manage to fix it. It's just a matter of time." "Time? Time is what my son doesn't have," the lawyer yelled. Sarah started crying, clutching the boy against her chest. "Henry, call an Uber. We can't wait anymore." "An Uber? It's hard to get one at this hour," he replied, running a hand through his hair. Ethan saw the child crying in his mother's arms and felt a pang in his chest. He remembered his own daughter, the desperate races to the hospital, the feeling of helplessness when a car broke down halfway. He couldn't stand still. He slowly crossed the street, knowing he would likely be chased away again, but unable to watch a child suffer. "Excuse me," he said, approaching. Mike lifted his head and his expression changed immediately. "Oh, no. What does he want here now?" Jake asked, still filming. Dr. Henry looked at Ethan with contempt. "Who is this?" "No one important," Mike answered quickly. "Just someone who shows up here sometimes." Ethan ignored the insults and went straight to the point. "May I take a look at the car?" "The child needs to go to the hospital." "You?" Dr. Henry laughed bitterly. "You're going to fix what 3 professional mechanics couldn't." "I can try." Sarah looked at Ethan desperately. "Do you know about cars?" "A little," he replied modestly. "A little?" Jake laughed loudly. "Man, this is the guy who fixed Ms. Jennifer's Mercedes the other day. He thinks he's a mechanic. He fixed it." Dr. Henry frowned. Mike turned red. "He got lucky." "It was a coincidence." "A coincidence?" Ethan asked calmly. "The camshaft position sensor was defective, wasn't it?" Mike didn't know how to respond. The truth was he had tested the sensor after Ethan left and discovered it really was failing. "Let him try," Sarah pleaded, looking at her husband. "For heaven's sake, Henry, our son is sick." "Sarah, this is ridiculous." "He is a—" "What?" she interrupted. "A person who offered to help when our son needs it." Ethan approached the BMW and placed his hand on the running engine. He closed his eyes, feeling the vibrations, listening to every sound. It was as if the car was talking to him, telling him where the problem was. "The fuel pump is failing," he said. "It's simply not holding constant pressure. That's why the engine is sputtering." Mike looked at him astonished. "How can you know that just by listening?" "Experience," Ethan replied. "Do you have a fuel pressure gauge?" Kevin went to get the equipment, still suspicious. They connected it to the system, and the reading confirmed exactly what Ethan had said. The pressure was fluctuating when it should have been constant. "I don't believe it," Jake murmured, still filming. "He got it right again." Dr. Henry looked at Ethan with a completely different expression. "Can you fix this?" "I can. I need a new pump, though." "It's not a repair that can be done on the spot. Where can you get the part?" "At the auto parts store on the corner." Costs about 60, Mike stepped forward. Dr. Henry, I can go get the part right now. How long will it take to install? The lawyer asked Ethan. 15 minutes. Sarah looked at her husband with tears in her eyes. Henry, please. Dr. Henry took money out of his wallet and handed it to Mike. Run, go get that pump now. Mike ran out. Jake continued filming everything, now completely fascinated by the situation. Guys, this is getting crazy. The homeless guy just became the shop's chief mechanic, he said, chuckling. While they waited, Sarah approached Ethan. Thank you, she said simply. I don't know who you are, but thank you for helping. Ethan nodded, looking at the child who had stopped crying and was now watching him curiously. What's his name? Alex, he's 3. Alex will be fine, Ethan said, making a funny face at the boy who smiled for the first time. Dr. Henry watched the interaction in silence. There was something about this man that made no sense. The way he spoke, the way he moved, the technical knowledge, it didn't match his scruffy appearance. May I ask where you learned mechanics? He questioned. Ethan hesitated. I worked with cars for a long time. At which shop? Several shops, he answered evasively. Mike ran back with the new pump. I got it. Is this the right one? Ethan examined the part. Exactly. I'll install it now. And he began to work. His hands moved with impressive precision, as if he knew every screw on that engine. He removed the old pump in a few minutes, installed the new one, and connected the hoses. Done, he said, wiping his hands. You can start it. Dr. Henry started the engine, and it purred perfectly. He stepped on the accelerator, and the response was immediate and smooth. Unbelievable, he muttered. Sarah got into the car with Alex in her lap. Henry, let's go. We need to get to the hospital. Before getting in, Dr. Henry approached Ethan. How much do you charge for the service? Nothing. I just wanted to help the child. Nothing? The lawyer repeated incredulously. You just saved my son, and you don't want anything in return. Ethan looked at the boy in the back seat, who now seemed more cheerful. I've already received my payment. Dr. Henry took a business card from his pocket. My name is Henry Thompson. Anything you need, call me. Thank you, doctor. The lawyer got into the car and sped off toward the hospital. Jake was still filming. Man, that was surreal. No one's going to believe it. Mike approached Ethan, clearly embarrassed. How can you do that? Do what? Diagnose problems just by listening. I've worked on cars for years and I've never seen anything like it. Ethan didn't answer. He started to walk away, but Mike followed him. Wait, you can't just leave like that. Who are you, really? Ethan stopped and turned around. For a moment, his eyes revealed a deep, old sadness, someone who had once been much more than he was now, and he disappeared into the street crowd, leaving Mike standing there with more questions than answers. Jake still had his phone in his hand, looking at the video he had recorded. Mike, we need to find out who this guy is. Why? Because no one knows that much about cars. Does this man have a story? And Jake was right. Ethan had a story that would change everything when it was discovered. The video that Jake recorded at the shop was causing a stir on social media. He had posted it with the title, Homeless Guy Fixes Cars Better Than Professional Mechanics. And in a few days, it already had thousands of views and hundreds of comments. Most people doubted its veracity, but some comments caught attention. This guy reminds me of someone, one user wrote. The way he messes with the engine, his hands. I've seen that before. It's impossible for that much precision to be a coincidence, another commented. This man has a history. Jennifer also saw the video. She was at home scrolling through her phone when the recording appeared on her timeline. She watched it 3 times in a row, paying attention to Ethan's every move, every word he spoke. There was something familiar in that voice, in that way of working. She remembered her own father, who had passed away when she was only 15. He also drank heavily. He had also lost everything because of alcohol. But before the drink destroyed his life, he was a mechanic. An exceptional mechanic who fixed impossible cars and always talked about a legendary driver from the 90s. Hands of gold, she murmured, recalling the phrase her father used. He always spoke of a guy called Hands of Gold. Curiosity consumed her. The next day, Jennifer returned to the Elite Auto Shop. She found Mike hunched over another car, clearly frustrated. Kevin and Jake were nearby, just as lost as their boss. Problems again? She asked, approaching. Mike looked up, surprised. Ms. Jennifer, you're back? I came to ask about that man who fixed my car. Do you know anything about him? Jake perked up. Did you see my video? It already has over 50,000 views. I did, and I'm curious. Where do you think he learned so much about cars? Mike shook his head. I have no idea, but I can tell you one thing. I've never seen anyone diagnose problems like that. Like what? He touches the engine, closes his eyes, and in seconds he knows exactly what's wrong. It's not normal. Jennifer felt a chill. My father did that. He said every engine has its own voice. Your father was a mechanic. Kevin asked. He was. He always talked about a race car driver from the 90s. Someone who, besides racing, understood engines better than any engineer. Jake stopped what he was doing. A racer from the 90s? What do you mean? He used to say there was this guy who was a legend. He won races because, in addition to driving well, he tuned the car himself. They called him something related to his hands. Mike's eyes widened. Hands of gold. That's it, hands of gold. Do you know him? My dad was crazy about racing. He always talked about this guy. Ethan Miller, known as Hands of Gold, rally champion in 95, 97, and 99. The silence in the shop was heavy as lead. Ethan Miller, Jennifer repeated slowly. The homeless man who fixed my car is named Ethan. It can't be, Jake whispered. It can't be the same guy. Why not? She asked. Because Ethan Miller was a millionaire. He had his own team, international sponsorship. Why would he be living on the street? Mike grabbed his phone and started searching. I'm going to look for old photos of him. As he typed, Jennifer felt her heart race. If it really was who she was thinking of, the story would be much sadder than she imagined. I found it, Mike said, showing his phone. Ethan Miller, Brazilian rally champion in 1995, 1997, and 1999. On the screen appeared a photo of a younger man holding a trophy and smiling next to a race car. Even with dark hair and no beard, it was impossible not to recognize the eyes. The same tired eyes that had fixed Jennifer's Mercedes. Oh my God, she whispered. Is it him? Is that really him? But what happened? Kevin asked. How did a world champion become a tragedy? Mike continued reading. It says here that in 2009, he lost his wife and daughter in a car accident. After that, he vanished from the racing scene. Jennifer felt her eyes fill with tears. The story was even worse than she imagined. He lost his family, and apparently he lost everything else, Jake completed, reading over Mike's shoulder. It says he sold his team, quit racing, and never appeared publicly again. That was 15 years ago, Mike calculated. All this time, where has he been? On the streets, Jennifer answered, her voice choked with emotion, trying to forget the pain. She remembered her own father again, how alcohol had been his refuge after losing his job and his self-esteem, how he had sunk deeper and deeper, losing his family, his home, his dignity, and how she, only a teenager at the time, hadn't known how to help. We need to find him, she said, determined. Why? Jake asked. To help, to give him a second chance. Mike looked at her with skepticism. Ms. Jennifer, with all due respect, the man has been on the street for years. If he wanted help, he would have looked for it. You don't understand, she replied, wiping away a tear. My father was lost, too. He also drank too much. He also lived on the streets in the end, and I was too young, too scared to help. He passed away without me being able to do anything. The auto shop fell silent. Jennifer continued, her voice trembling with emotion. If I can't save my father anymore, at least I can try to save someone who is going through the same thing. Jake put away his phone, clearly touched by the story. You're right. We need to find him, but where? Kevin asked. He shows up here sometimes, but we don't know where he lives. He lives on the street, Mike said. He probably sleeps somewhere nearby. Jennifer stood up. Let's look. Do you guys know the spots where homeless people usually stay? There's the park 3 blocks from here, Jake suggested. And there's an overpass where I always see people sleeping. Then let's go now, Mike hesitated. Ms. Jennifer, maybe it's better to wait for him to show up here again. No, she was firm. Every day that passes is one more day of suffering for him. My father waited for help that never came. I won't let that happen again. The four of them left the shop and walked to the park. It was mid-afternoon, and a few homeless people were sitting on the benches enjoying the shade of the trees. Jennifer approached an elderly man. "Excuse me, do you know a man named Ethan, gray hair, around 50? The man looked suspicious. "Know him?" "I know him. Why? Did he do something?" "No, not at all. We want to help him." "Help?" The man laughed without humor. "No one helps anyone here, lady. To each his own." "Please," Jennifer insisted. "It's important. Where can I find him?" The man studied her face, looking for signs of ill intent. Apparently satisfied with what he saw, he pointed in a direction. "He usually stays under the Central Avenue overpass. But be careful, lady. Ethan isn't like the others. He has a history, and history hurts." "What history?" she asked. "I don't know for sure. I just know sometimes he drinks and cries, talking about a little girl. A daughter he lost. It's heartbreaking." Jennifer felt her chest tighten. The daughter who had died in the accident. The pain he had been carrying for so many years. "Thank you," she said to the man and turned to the mechanics. "Let's go to the overpass." They walked in silence until they got there. Beneath the concrete structure were several makeshift tents and people living in precarious conditions. The smell of urine and trash was strong, but Jennifer was not intimidated. "Ethan," she called. "Ethan, are you there?" There was no answer. They walked between the tents, searching. It was Jake who found him, sitting alone in a secluded corner, holding an empty bottle and staring at a crumpled photo. "Ethan," he whispered to the others. Jennifer approached slowly. Ethan looked different from the confident man who had fixed her car. He was broken, vulnerable, lost in his own sadness. "Ethan," she called softly. He lifted his eyes and took a few seconds to recognize her. "The lady with the Mercedes, that's right. Can I sit down?" He nodded yes, quickly putting the photo in his pocket. But Jennifer managed to see enough. It was an image of a little girl smiling, probably the daughter he had lost. "I came looking for you," she said, sitting down on the ground beside him. "Why?" "Because I found out who you are." Ethan tensed up. "I'm nobody important." "Yes, you are. You're Ethan Miller, Hands of Gold." The silence that followed was heavy with pain. Ethan closed his eyes as if hearing his own name was a wound that never healed. "I was," he finally said. "I was that a long time ago. And can you be again?" "I can't." He shook his head. "Not after what happened. Not after losing everything that mattered." Jennifer felt tears running down her face. "I know what it's like to lose someone you love. I lost my father to alcohol when I was a teenager, and ever since, I've wondered every day if I could have done something different." Ethan looked at her for the first time with real attention. "I don't want to carry that weight again," she continued. "I don't want to look back and know that I found someone who needed help and I did nothing." "Why do you care?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Because when I look at you, I see my father. I see a good man who got lost in his pain, and this time I'm in a position to help." Ethan looked at Mike, Kevin, and Jake, who had approached and were watching the conversation in silence. "All of you came looking for me?" "We did," Mike replied. "We want to offer you a chance to start over." "Start over?" Ethan gave a bitter laugh. "You don't understand. You don't come back from the place I am." "Yes, you do," Jennifer said firmly. "With help, with treatment, with people who believe in you." Ethan took the photo out of his pocket and looked at it with infinite sadness. She was 8 years old when she passed. 8 years of life ahead of her. "It was my fault." "It wasn't your fault," Jennifer interrupted. "It was. I was driving. If I had been more careful, if I had paid more attention." His voice broke. "Accidents happen," she said softly. "But living the rest of your life punishing yourself won't bring them back." Ethan looked at his daughter's photo one more time, then at Jennifer. For an instant she saw a flicker of the man he had been, the champion who faced any challenge, who never gave up. "What are you proposing?" he asked. Mike stepped forward. "A job at the shop as chief mechanic. Fair salary on the books. And I," Jennifer completed, "can cover treatment to help you with the drinking. Place to live, new clothes, a total fresh start." Ethan remained silent for long minutes, processing the proposal. Finally, he looked at his daughter's photo one last time. "She always used to say that I was capable of fixing anything that was broken," he murmured. "Maybe it's time to try and fix myself. And for the first time in years, Ethan Miller smiled. Weeks after that meeting under the overpass, Ethan was sitting in the waiting room of a rehabilitation clinic. His hands trembled slightly, not just from the effects of withdrawal, but from the anxiety of being in a medical environment again. The last time he had stepped into a hospital was to say goodbye to his wife and daughter. Jennifer was beside him, flipping through a magazine without really reading it. She could feel the tension radiating from the man she had decided to help. Mike was also there, nervous, checking his phone every 5 minutes. "Mr. Ethan Miller?" A nurse called from the doorway. Ethan stood up slowly, his legs still weak. Jennifer made a move to accompany him, but he shook his head. "I need to do this alone," he said, his voice hoarse but determined. The consultation lasted 2 hours. When Ethan came out, he was visibly shaken. The psychiatrist had poked at old wounds, forcing him to talk about his daughter, about the accident, about all the years lost to drinking. "How was it?" Jennifer asked softly. "Hard," he replied, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "But necessary." On the way back, they passed the elite auto shop. An unusual commotion caught their attention. 3 luxury cars were parked out front, and a small crowd was gathered on the sidewalk. "What do you think is going on?" Mike muttered, quickening his pace. When they got closer, they saw Kevin and Jake gesticulating desperately around a red Ferrari. The car's owner, a well-known city businessman named Mr. Mark Allen, was visibly irritated. "You don't understand," he said, his voice loud. "This car needs to be running today. I have a crucial presentation for international investors. If I don't get there, I lose a $50 million contract." "Mr. Allen, we are doing our best," Kevin tried to calm him. "We've never seen a problem like this. Your best isn't good enough. I've called 3 different mechanics. None of them could fix it. This shop was recommended as the best in the city." Jake was sweating nervously. "Sir, we can try a few more things." "A few more things?" Mark exploded. "You've been at this for 6 hours. My presentation is in 2 hours." The situation was becoming unsustainable. Other customers began to question whether they should leave their cars there. The shop's reputation was hanging by a thread. It was then that someone in the crowd recognized Ethan. "Hey, aren't you the guy from the video?" a young man asked. "The guy who fixes cars." Everyone turned to look. Jake flushed with embarrassment, remembering that he was the one who had posted the video. Mark looked Ethan up and down with disdain. "Is this the famous miracle mechanic? A homeless person?" "Mr. Allen," Mike tried to intervene. "He actually knows a lot about cars. Knows a lot." Mark laughed bitterly. "My car is worth $2 million. Do you think I'm going to let a recovering alcoholic mess with my expensive toy?" "Recovering alcoholic," Ethan completed, his voice calm but with a hint of pain. The silence was awkward. Mark realized he had been cruel, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. "That's not what I meant," he lied. "Yes, it was," Ethan replied. "And you have a right to be suspicious. I am everything you're thinking, but I also know that your car has a problem with the direct injection system. Probably one of the injectors is clogged with high-octane fuel residue." Mark was speechless. "How can you know that just by looking?" "I don't need to look. I heard the sound when you tried to start it a little while ago. It's a specific sound when the air-fuel mixture is not homogeneous." Kevin leaned toward Mike and whispered, "He got it right. We tried everything except checking the injectors." Mike was conflicted. He knew Ethan could solve it, but he also understood the client's apprehension. A Ferrari wasn't just any car. "Mr. Allen," Jennifer approached. "May I speak with you privately?" They moved a few feet away. The crowd watched, curious. "Sir, I am Jennifer Fernandez from Fernandez Development," she introduced herself. "This man fixed my car when no one else could. And I can guarantee that if he says he knows the problem, he knows. But ma'am, look at him. How can I trust him?" "For the same reason I trusted him," she replied. "Because sometimes appearances are deceiving, and because you don't have much time or many options." Mark looked at his watch. He had just over an hour until his presentation. If he took a taxi, he would arrive late and sweaty. If he took an Uber, he risked getting stuck in traffic. "If he damages anything on my car," he began. "I assume full responsibility," Jennifer said. "I will pay for any damage. Any damage to a Ferrari could exceed $100,000. "I will pay," she repeated without hesitation. Mark took a deep breath. "All right, but if it's not fixed in 30 minutes, I'm stopping everything." Ethan approached the Ferrari like someone approaching an old friend. His hands, which had been trembling at the clinic just hours ago, were now firm and steady. He opened the hood and immediately located the problem. "I need a specific wrench to loosen the injectors," he told Mike. "We don't have that wrench," Mike replied, worried. "I do," said a voice behind them. Everyone turned. It was Mr. Rodriguez, the owner of the simple shop next door, holding a toolbox. "I heard the commotion here and brought my special tools," he said with a smile. "Ethan, you'll need the 8mm hex key and the magnetic Phillips." "Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez," Ethan said, taking the tools. The crowd gathered to watch. Jake started filming again, this time with more respect than mockery. Mark glanced at his watch every couple of minutes, sweating nervously. Ethan worked with surgical precision, removing the fuel injectors one by one. He examined each one under the light and identified exactly what was causing the issue. One of the injectors was partially obstructed by a microscopic residue. "We need to clean this with ultrasound," he said. "But there's no time to take it to a specialized shop." "Now what?" Mark asked, desperation growing in his voice. Ethan thought for a few seconds. "There's a homemade solution. It's not ideal, but it works." "And what solution?" "Isopropyl alcohol and an ultrafine bristle brush. With patience, I can clean it manually." "How long?" 15 minutes. Mark looked at his watch one last time. It was still possible to make the presentation if everything went well. "Do it," he said. Mr. Rodriguez ran back to his shop and returned with the materials. Ethan began the most delicate work of his life. Every movement had to be perfect. One wrong pressure, one sudden gesture, and the $50,000 injector would be ruined. The crowd watched in absolute silence. Even the children playing on the sidewalk stopped to look. Mike was so tense he could barely breathe. Jennifer watched Ethan's hands and remembered the stories her father told about exceptional mechanics. "Some people are born for it," he would say. "The hands know what to do before the head even thinks." After 12 minutes of meticulous work, Ethan reinstalled the cleaned injector in the engine. "Done," he said simply. Mark rushed to the car and turned the ignition. The engine purred perfectly, smooth as silk. He stepped on the accelerator, and the response was instantaneous and powerful. "Unbelievable," he murmured, getting out of the car. "I've never seen this Ferrari run so well." The crowd erupted in applause. Jake filmed everything, knowing he had another video that would surely go viral. Mark approached Ethan, clearly embarrassed. "Sir, I need to apologize. I judged you without knowing you." "You don't need to apologize," Ethan responded. "You acted with caution. It's normal, nothing." Mark pulled out his wallet. "How much do I owe for the service?" "Nothing. I just wanted to help." "What do you mean, nothing? You just saved a $50 million contract. Please accept at least this." He extended some bills. Ethan hesitated, looking at Jennifer. She gave him a discreet signal to accept. "Thank you," he said, taking the money. Mark got into the Ferrari and drove away, but not before shouting through the window, "If you ever need anything, look me up. Mark Allen. Everyone knows me in the city." The crowd began to disperse, but several people approached Ethan. Some wanted to hire his services. Others just wanted to congratulate him. "Mr. Ethan," an elderly woman approached. "Could you take a look at my car?" "It's not running right." "I have a problem too," another man said. "The mechanics say it can't be fixed, but after what I saw here..." In a few minutes, there was a line of people wanting to talk to Ethan. Mike watched the scene, impressed. "Dude," Jake said to him, "I think we just found the solution to all the shop's problems." Jennifer approached Ethan, who was clearly overwhelmed by all the attention. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. "I am," he replied, but she could see he was emotional. "I haven't felt useful in a long time." "You were always useful," she said. "You just needed an opportunity to show it." Ethan looked at the line of people waiting to talk to him, then at Mike, Kevin, and Jake, who were watching him with genuine respect. "She always used to say that I was capable of fixing anything broken," he murmured. "Maybe it's time to try and fix myself." And for the first time in 15 years, Ethan Miller smiled. Weeks after that encounter under the overpass, Ethan's life had changed completely, but not in the way everyone expected. The treatment at the clinic was proving harder than any broken engine he had ever fixed. Some nights he woke up in a cold sweat, trembling, calling out his wife's and daughter's names. Jennifer had rented a small apartment for him near the shop, but Ethan could barely sleep in a bed after so long on the streets. He spent his nights sitting on the balcony, gazing at the stars and fighting the urge to drink. Work at the elite auto shop was going well. Too well, in fact. Ethan's fame had spread throughout the city. Jake's YouTube videos already had over 500,000 views each, and people traveled from neighboring towns just to see the miracle mechanic work. Mike was ecstatic with the business, but also worried. Ethan arrived punctually every day, solved the most impossible problems with ease, but always with that distant look, as if a part of him was still lost somewhere. Ethan. Mike approached him one morning. "Can I talk to you? How are you really feeling?" Ethan stopped what he was doing and looked at the young man. "Why do you ask?" "Because you're different. You fix everything. You work perfectly, but it looks like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." "I am carrying it," Ethan replied simply. 15 years of guilt don't disappear in a few months. Kevin approached, running. "Guys, we have a situation outside. Some guy just arrived with a totally busted armored BMW. He says it's urgent." Ethan and Mike went out to see. In the shop's yard was a black armored BMW X6 that was visibly damaged. The engine made a strange noise as if something was loose inside. An elegant man, visibly nervous, stepped out of the car. It was Dr. Henry, the lawyer who had appeared months ago with his sick child. But now he was different. Sweaty, looking around nervously, clearly in a panic. "Dr. Henry," Mike recognized. "You're the boy's father, aren't you?" "That's me," he interrupted. "And I need your help urgently, especially Mr. Ethan's." Ethan approached. "What happened?" "It's a long story." Dr. Henry took a deep breath. "I'm receiving threats because of a case I'm defending. They tried to follow me this morning. During the escape, I pushed the car too hard, and now it's making this noise." "Threats?" Jennifer had arrived just then and overheard the conversation. "What kind of threats?" "I'm defending a family that lost their son in an accident caused by a drunk businessman. The guy has a lot of power, a lot of influence, and he doesn't want to be convicted." Ethan felt his chest tighten. An accident caused by intoxication. The story touched a wound that was still bleeding. "I need the car to be running perfectly," Dr. Henry continued. "Tonight I have a crucial meeting with witnesses. If they agree to testify, we can get justice for that family." "And if you can't make it to the meeting?" Mike asked. "The case dies and a family will never get the justice they deserve." Ethan opened the hood of the BMW and immediately frowned. The problem was serious. During the high-speed escape, the engine had suffered internal damage. It would be necessary to dismantle almost everything. "How much time do you have?" he asked. 6 hours. "The meeting is at 7 p.m. Mike and Kevin exchanged glances. 6 hours for a repair of that magnitude was impossible. "Ethan?" Mike whispered. "This will take at least 2 days. There's no way to do it in 6 hours. Ethan looked at Dr. Henry, saw the desperation in his eyes, and remembered the child he had helped save months ago. He also remembered the families who never got justice, the lives lost to drunk drivers who walked free. "I'll try," he said. "Try?" Dr. Henry asked, hopeful. "I won't be able to do it alone. I'll need the whole team working together." Mike didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, you can count on me." "And me." Kevin joined in. "Me too," Jake said, already reaching for his phone to film. "This is going to be epic." Jennifer approached Ethan. "What can I do to help?" "Can you get express parts? I'll need components that we might not have here." "I'm calling right now," she said, picking up her phone. What happened in the next 6 hours was something no one in the shop would ever forget. Ethan transformed into a maestro conducting an orchestra. Every movement was calculated. Every decision was precise. "Mike, dismantle the cylinder head while I work on the engine block," he commanded. "Kevin, clean all the parts with heavy-duty degreaser. Jake, stop filming and help me secure this tool." The work was intense, almost frantic. Ethan had entered a zone of total concentration, as if he were a surgeon operating on a heart. His hands moved with a precision that hypnotized the onlookers. How does he know where every screw goes? A waiting customer asked, astonished. "Experience," Mike replied, sweaty but admiring. 30 years of working on engines. Jennifer rushed back with the ordered parts. I got everything. The supplier said they never saw anyone order such specific parts like this. Thank you, Ethan said without lifting his eyes from the engine. The hours passed. 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Dr. Henry paced back and forth nervously, constantly checking his watch. Will it be ready in time? He asked for the 10th time. It will, Ethan replied. But Mike could see that Ethan was at his physical limit. Having worked for 4 hours without stopping, his hands were beginning to tremble slightly. Ethan, Mike approached. Do you want me to finish this part? No, he replied firmly. If it's going to be done, it has to be perfect. People's lives depend on this. Jake, who had stopped filming to help, watched, fascinated. Man, this isn't normal work. This is art. It's 30 p.m., half an hour until the deadline. Ethan was installing the last few pieces when his hand slipped, and he dropped a small but essential screw. Damn it, he muttered, desperately searching the floor. Found it, Kevin shouted, retrieving the part from under a tool. 50 p.m., 10 minutes until the deadline. Ethan closed the hood and turned to Dr. Henry. You can test it. The lawyer rushed to the car, turned the ignition, and the engine purred perfectly. He stepped on the accelerator, and the response was smooth, powerful, as if the car were brand new. Unbelievable, he murmured, getting out of the car. How did you manage to do that in 6 hours? Mike looked at Ethan, who was leaning against the workbench, visibly exhausted. It wasn't us, it was him. Dr. Henry approached Ethan. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. You may have just helped bring justice to a family that lost everything. I just did my job, Ethan replied modestly. No, sir, you performed a miracle. Dr. Henry got into the car and sped off toward the meeting. Everyone stood there, still processing what had happened. 6 hours, Mike shook his head in disbelief. We did in 6 hours what should have taken 2 days. Jake was looking at his phone. Guys, the video I posted of the Ferrari has already passed 1 million views. And check out the comments. He showed the screen. Hundreds of comments from people wanting to know more about the legendary mechanic. Others offering him work, some even recognizing Ethan from his racing days. This guy is a living legend, Jake read a comment. Does anyone know where I can find this man? Ethan Miller was dead to the world, but he came back from the dead to save impossible cars. Kevin read another. Jennifer observed Ethan, who had sat down in a chair and was looking at his own hands. How do you feel? Tired, he replied, but useful. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I made a difference. You did, she said, sitting next to him. And not just today. Since you got here, you've changed everyone's lives. You changed ours too, Mike added. The shop has never run so well. Clients trust our work because of you. Ethan smiled, a small but genuine smile. You guys saved me. You literally pulled me off the street and gave me a reason to live again. You saved yourself, Jennifer corrected. We just gave you an opportunity. Jake put away his phone and approached the group. Ethan, can I ask you one more question? Sure. How can you work like that, with that precision, that speed? Ethan was silent for a few moments. Because now there's a motive. Before, I raced to win trophies. Now I fix cars to save people. And what's the difference? All the difference in the world. When you work for something bigger than yourself, your hands find a strength you never knew you had. Mike felt his eyes well up with tears. Ethan, you are an inspiration. I'm not an inspiration. I'm just someone who learned that it's never too late to start over. And in that moment, sitting in a simple shop surrounded by people who had become his family, Ethan Miller finally understood that he had found his place in the world again. What Ethan didn't know was that Dr. Henry's meeting had been a complete success. The witnesses agreed to testify. The case gained momentum, and the drunk businessman was convicted. But there was more. During the process, Dr. Henry told the story of the mechanic who had fixed his car in record time for him to get to the meeting. The story spread, first among lawyers, then among journalists, and finally reached social media. Someone connected the dots between Jake's videos and the real identity of Ethan Miller. It was an ordinary afternoon at the shop when everything changed. Mike was working on a pickup truck when he saw a news van stop in front of the elite auto shop. Then another, and another. Ethan, he called out nervously, I think we have a problem. Ethan lifted his head from the engine he was fixing and saw reporters getting out of the vans with cameras and microphones. He felt his blood run cold. "What do they want here?" he asked. Jake rushed over. "Dude, it exploded on the internet. Someone found out who you really are. It's on all the news portals." He showed Ethan his phone. The headline read, "Ethan Hands of Gold Miller is alive and working as a mechanic in Sao Paulo." Below the headline, an old photo of him holding a champion's trophy, and next to it, a screenshot of Jake's video fixing the Ferrari. "How did they find out?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. "After that case where you helped Dr. Henry, the story leaked. Then they put together the videos, the physical description, the way you work. It wasn't hard to connect. The reporters were approaching." Ethan felt panic rise. 15 years hidden from the world, and now everything was coming out at once. "Mr. Ethan Miller," a reporter shouted, "is it true that you are the 3-time Brazilian rally champion? Can you confirm that you lived on the streets during those years? What happened after the accident that took your family?" The questions came like bullets. Ethan recoiled, leaning against the shop wall. Jennifer rushed over and stood in front of him. "Everyone, let's calm down," she requested. "You can't just invade like this. Ma'am, we are the press. We have the right to ask. You have the right, but he also has the right not to answer." Mike joined her, forming a human shield. "Ethan is working. If you want to speak with him, schedule an appointment." But the reporters wouldn't give up. "Mr. Miller, you disappeared from the racing world after 2009. Where have you been all this time?" Ethan looked at those anxious faces. Cameras pointed at him, and felt like he was under attack. He remembered his last days as a racer, when the press only wanted morbid details about the accident. "I have nothing to say," he said, trying to move into the shop. "But sir, people want to know. You were a national idol." "I was," he repeated bitterly. "I am not anymore." Kevin closed the shop gate, but the reporters stayed outside. In a few minutes, there was a real crowd on the sidewalk. Clients coming to drop off cars. Curious onlookers who wanted a closer look. Fans who remembered Ethan's golden age. "This is going to get unbearable," Mike said, peering through the window. Jake was glued to his phone. "Guys, the video's exploded. The Ferrari one already has 5 million views. And look at the comments." He showed the screen. "Ethan Miller saved my childhood. He was my hero in the 90s. What an inspiring story. A champion who never gave up on helping people. Crying here to lose family like that, and still find the strength to start over." Jennifer approached Ethan, who was sitting on a chair with his head in his hands. "How are you?" "Destroyed," he replied. "So much time has passed. I thought no one remembered anymore. They remembered, and now they know that you didn't give up, that you found a new way to be a hero. A hero." He laughed without humor. "Jennifer, I'm a recovering alcoholic who lost everything due to incompetence. You are a man who turned pain into purpose, who uses his talent to save people." Outside, the crowd grew. An elderly man approached the gate and shouted, "Ethan, you saved me in 1998. I flipped my car on a curve in Campos do Jordão, and you stopped to pull me out." Ethan looked up, surprised. Another man joined in. "Ethan Miller, my son was your fan. He passed away last year, but he always talked about wanting to meet you. Ethan, come back to the tracks. Brazil needs you." Mike opened a crack in the gate and saw the crowd. They weren't just reporters. They were ordinary people. Entire families, people who had been touched by the story. "Ethan," he said, "I think you need to see this." Reluctantly, Ethan approached the window. He saw dozens of people holding handmade signs. "Thank you for not giving up. You are our inspiration. Stay strong, champ." A woman held an old photo of him celebrating a victory. Beside her, her young son looked on with admiration. "Why are they here?" he asked, confused. "Because your story touched everyone," Jennifer explained. "You're not just a former racer who became a mechanic. You're a symbol that it's possible to start over." Jake continued reading comments. "Listen to this. My father was an alcoholic. After seeing Ethan's story, he decided to seek help. Today, he's 3 months sober." Ethan felt his eyes fill with tears. "And this one? I lost my job and was thinking of giving up everything. The Hands of Gold story gave me the strength to keep fighting." "Ethan," Jennifer took his hand, "you are helping people you don't even know. Outside, someone started singing the old jingle that played when he won races. Other voices joined in. In a few minutes, the entire crowd was singing. Ethan couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They didn't forget, he whispered. They didn't forget the champion, Mike said. And now they know the man. Kevin approached the group. Guys, there's a reporter out here who seems different from the others. She said she wants to do a serious piece, not sensationalist. How so? Jennifer asked. She said she also lost someone to alcohol. She wants to tell the story respectfully. Ethan wiped his eyes. What story? The story of how a champion became an even better person. He looked at the crowd outside, at the support signs, at the families who had come just to show their affection. He remembered his daughter's words. Daddy, you always help people. All right, he finally said. But I'll tell it my way. Mike opened the gate. The crowd fell into respectful silence when Ethan appeared. He walked to the middle of the sidewalk, surrounded by people who looked at him as if he were a resurrected hero. Folks, he said, his voice coming out stronger than he expected. Thank you for being here. I didn't expect anyone to still remember me. We never forgot. Someone yelled. Ethan Miller forever. Another completed. He smiled for the first time in public after so many years. I'm no longer the racer you knew. I am just a mechanic who is trying to make a difference in people's lives. And you are succeeding, a woman shouted. My husband saw your videos and started believing in himself again. Ethan felt his chest warm. Maybe this exposure wasn't just suffering. Maybe it was an opportunity to show that falls can turn into new beginnings. If my story can help someone not to give up, he said, looking directly into the cameras. Then maybe it was worth going through all of this. The crowd erupted in applause, and for the first time in 15 years, Ethan Miller felt whole again. A year after that day that changed everything, Ethan stood in front of a building that looked like it came from his most impossible dreams. The golden plaque at the entrance shone under the morning sun. Ethan Miller Rehabilitation and Social Shop. Hands that transform. The complex had 3 floors. The first was a free mechanical workshop for low-income people. The second housed a treatment center for chemical dependency. And the third functioned as a technical school for underprivileged young people to learn trades. Jennifer approached him, carrying a bouquet of white flowers, the same ones he always took to his daughter's grave. How are you feeling? Like she's here with me, Ethan replied, touching his chest. Seeing everything we managed to build, it was the day of the official inauguration. Hundreds of people gathered at the entrance. Former homeless people who had found work in the project, families who had their cars fixed for free, young people who had learned trades, people who had overcome alcoholism at the treatment center. Mike arrived running, wearing a new uniform with the center's logo. Ethan, everything is ready inside. The first students of the technical school want to meet you? How many are there? He asked. 50 in the first class, all between 16 and 20 years old. Some came from the streets. Others never had the opportunity to study. Kevin and Jake appeared shortly after. Jake had become responsible for the project's social media, documenting every story of transformation. Kevin coordinated the free workshop along with a team of volunteer mechanics. Today's numbers are impressive, Jake said excitedly. In 1 year, we served over 1,000 families at the free shop, trained 200 young people, and helped 300 people at the rehab center. And there's more, Kevin completed. That TV program that did the piece on you brought in donations from all over the country. People want to open similar centers in other cities. Ethan smiled, but it was a different smile from the broken man who had been found under the overpass. It was the smile of someone who had found peace. At that moment, a family approached. It was Dr. Henry, Sarah, and little Alex, now a few years older. Uncle Ethan! Alex ran to him and hugged him. Alex, how you've grown. Ethan picked him up. And how is school? Very good. And Daddy said that when I grow up I can work here with you. Dr. Henry approached. Ethan, we can't thank you enough. That day you fixed our car didn't just save our trip to the hospital. It saved our faith in humanity and changed our lives forever. Sarah added, We decided to volunteer here every week. You don't need to thank me, Ethan said, placing Alex on the ground. You helped me just as much as I helped you. A familiar car stopped in front of the center. Mr. Mark Allen, the Ferrari businessman, stepped out, but he wasn't alone. He brought a group of other business people with him. Ethan Miller, he greeted enthusiastically. I brought friends who want to know about the project. Mr. Ethan, I'm Ms. Ann Miller from Millennium Construction, a businesswoman introduced herself. We want to donate material for you to expand the center. And I, another man joined in, represent a network of dealerships. We want to provide discounted parts for the social shop. Ethan was moved. Folks, this is what you deserve, Mark interrupted. That day you fixed my Ferrari saved much more than a contract. It saved my perspective on what truly matters in life. The official ceremony began. The city mayor was present, along with council members, business people, journalists, and hundreds of ordinary people. But the group that attracted the most attention arrived at the end. Former racers and mechanics from Ethan's glory days, hands of gold. One of them shouted when he saw him, "We finally found you." It was Sebastian, his former chief mechanic, now with white hair but a youthful smile. "Man, we looked for you for years. When we heard you were alive," Ethan hugged him, emotional. "Sebastian, how are you?" "I'm good, but you are incredible. Look what you've built." Other former colleagues approached. Racers who had competed against him, mechanics who had worked on his team, journalists who had covered his victories. "Ethan," a former racer said, "we wanted to ask you something." "What? Come back to the tracks. As a consultant, as a coach, whatever you want. Brazilian Motorsports needs you." Ethan looked around at the center he had built, at the people who were being helped, at Jennifer, who had become like a daughter to him, at Mike, Kevin, and Jake, who were his new family. "Thank you for the invitation," he said. "But my place is here now, here where I can make a real difference in people's lives." "But Ethan," the racer insisted, "you don't understand." He interrupted gently. "When I was racing, I was only helping myself. Here I help hundreds of people every day. Which victory do you think is worth more?" The silence was respectful. Everyone understood that Ethan had found something greater than trophies and medals. The mayor approached the microphone for the official speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to inaugurate a project that has already changed thousands of lives. The Ethan Miller Center is not just a workplace. It is a symbol that it is never too late to start over." The crowd applauded. Jake filmed everything to document the historic moment. "Now," the mayor continued, "I would like to invite Ethan Miller himself to speak." Ethan approached the microphone, looked at the crowd, and felt his chest tighten with emotion. 2 years ago, I was living under an overpass, lost in pain and alcohol. I thought my life was over." The crowd fell completely silent, but some special people showed me that falls are not the end of the story. They are opportunities to start over better. He looked at Jennifer, who was crying. "A woman taught me that helping others heals our own pain." He looked at Mike, Kevin, and Jake. 3 young men gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it." He looked at the entire crowd. "And hundreds of people showed me that a man's value is not in what he lost, but in what he chooses to build after the loss." The applause started softly and grew, until it became deafening. "This center is not mine," Ethan continued when the noise subsided. "It is ours. It belongs to everyone who believes in second chances, to every young person who wants to learn, to every family that needs help." He took the crumpled photo of his daughter, the one he had carried for years, out of his pocket. "And it is especially hers," he said, showing the image. "Lily Ann, who at 8 years old taught me that the greatest trophy in life is helping other people." There were no dry eyes in the crowd. "So today I am not just inaugurating a center," he concluded. "I am inaugurating a promise. The promise that as long as I have strength, no one who needs help will be abandoned." The explosion of applause was so intense that it lasted for several minutes. People cried openly. Others shouted words of support. Jake filmed everything, knowing that moment would go down in history. When the official ceremony ended, people began to visit the center. In the social shop, families brought broken cars and left with the problems solved for free. In the technical school, young people learned not only trades but dignity and self-esteem. In the rehab center, people fought addiction with the support of those who had already won the same battle. Jennifer approached Ethan, who was observing everything from a balcony on the second floor. "You did it. You achieved the impossible dream." "We did it," he corrected. None of this would exist without you, without Mike, without everyone who believed. And your daughter. What do you think she would say about all this? Ethan smiled, looking at the photo. I think she would say, I knew you could do it. Daddy, I knew you were capable of fixing anything broken. Even yourself, even myself, that afternoon. As the sun set over the Ethan Miller Center, hundreds of people continued to circulate through the floors. Former homeless people now working as mechanics. Young people learning trades. Families receiving free help. People overcoming addictions. Jake posted the video of the inauguration with the title, From the Overpass to the City's Largest Social Center, The Complete Transformation of Ethan Miller. In a few hours, it had millions of views and thousands of comments from people worldwide inspired by the story. Mike became the technical director of the center. Kevin became the coordinator of the social shop. Jake documented every story of transformation, showing that miracles happen every day when people decide to help other people. Jennifer created a foundation to replicate the model in other cities. In 5 years, there were similar centers in 10 states. And Ethan finally found peace. Every day he arrived early at the center, put on his mechanic's overalls, and worked side by side with people who, like him, had found a second chance. At night before going home, he always visited the 3rd floor, where there was a small memorial with Lily Ann's photo. Another day fulfilling our promise, my daughter, he would whisper. More lives transformed, more people helped. And as he left the center, walking down the illuminated street, Ethan Miller knew he had discovered life's most important truth. No matter how far you fall, it is always possible to start over. And when you start over by helping others, you find something much greater than trophies or recognition. You find purpose, you find peace, you find the certainty that your life made a difference. 5 years after the inauguration, the Ethan Miller Center had become an international reference for rehabilitation and social inclusion. But for Ethan, true success was not in the numbers or awards. It was in the smile of every young person learning a trade, in the gratitude of every family receiving help, in the recovery of every person overcoming an addiction, in the certainty that Lily Ann, wherever she was proud of the father who never gave up on honoring her memory. And so, the man who was once humiliated in a shop for asking to fix a car in exchange for food became the living proof that the right hands, moved by the right heart, can fix much more than engines. They can fix lives, they can fix dreams, they can fix the world, one person at a time. The end of the story.